Alrighty, so British actor of African descent Idris Elba caused quite a firestorm on social media recently, went totally viral for what he said while he was on an interview on Esquire UK. Now, of course, it was only a matter of time before the woke revolutionaries came after him because the things that he said did not really sit well with woke Hollywood and many of the woke revolutionaries out there. Now, one notable name of people that came after him happens to be another British actor of African descent in the name of John Boyega. Now, John Boyega wasn't very happy in a tweet responding to what Idris Elba said and had a lot of support. So what was it exactly that Idris Elba said to have ruffled a lot of feather on social media? Well, let's find out. Idris Elba rejects identity politics, reveal he no longer refers to himself as a specifically black actor. I don't want to be the first black. I'm the first Idris. I see no problem with that, but of course the woke revolutionaries gone haywire on social media and started coming after this person. Now, during the course of this video, I'm going to go over this story. We're going to find out exactly how he got to this point. Also go over the tweets that John Boyega tweeted at him, and I'll share my thoughts as we go along. Please feel free to share your thoughts in that comment section below. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into it now, shall we? So there's lots to get into when it comes to this particular story, and this story is kind of self-explanatory, so I'm going to try as much as possible to keep my commentaries to the barest minimum. So in that particular interview that Idris Elba was on the Esquire UK, this is what transpired. Following discussion on his early childhood and the upcoming film sequel to his popular detective series Luther, The Fallen Son, Elba and Bilmes eventually broached the general topic of race. Funny how they always ask actors who happen to be black about race. They always ask other actors who happen to be people of color as well, particularly if they are dark-skinned, about race, like as if black people and people of color are the only people who go through racism today. But today we know clearly that that is not the case, that everybody from every race does go through racism. However, it's only black people they ask about this. Ostensibly asked by Bilmes about his experience with racism, the published Esquire UK piece is formatted in such a way that the reporter's questions are omitted in favor of spotlighting Elba's responses. The British native replied, "I'm always curious why this is fascinating to people." "Me too, my brother, me too. It's a question I get asked a lot," said Elba. "I don't go to my black friends in conversation and ask them to tell me about racism. Have I ever faced racism? Yes, as we all. But these people are obsessed with it when they are talking to only actors that happen to be black." Elaborating on his seemingly annoyance at the premise of Bilmes' unknown question, the actor asserted, "If we spent half the time not talking about differences but the similarities between us, the entire planet would have a shift in the way that we deal with each other. One key similarity between us is that our DNAs are not distinguishable by race. They still cannot discover which race a person belongs to via DNA. But you know what's funny is that they can actually tell what tribe you belong to if you're provided with DNAs of the same race. So let's say you provided a DNA of two Hispanic people. They can actually tell what tribe of Hispanic or what country you come from. However, if you provide a Hispanic and a black person, they can't tell which DNA is black and which DNA is Hispanic. Funny that. Every other creature on the planet, they are distinguishable by DNA. Lions and tigers are the same cat family, but they are distinguishable by DNA. Penguins have about 8 species, but they are distinguishable by their DNA. And the funny thing about those 8 species is they can't intermate. Funny enough, but we can intermarry and do all of those stuff, yet we still consider ourselves as different people regardless of the fact that we are one and the same. As humans, we are obsessed with race," he lamented, "and that obsession can really hinder people's aspiration, hinder people's growth, and specifically it hinders black people more than anything else. The way that we think and see things through the lens of race, we get woke on it. It does hinder us. It is one of the key reasons why we've adopted cultures that actually hinders us from progressing, and that's why black people are where we are at, wherever we are at in the world in general. But many black people who have woken up to this are overcoming this because racism is not as powerful as most of these woke revolutionaries make it out to be. Racism should be a topic of discussion. Sure, racism is very real, but from my perspective, it's only as powerful as you allow it to be. Now, where have I heard this recently? That's right, Morgan Freeman.
Are we going to get rid of racism and
stop talking about it? I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man.
And that's the exact sentiment that Idris Elba is actually trying to say here. To that end, Elba then informed Bilmis, I stopped describing myself as a black actor when I realized it put me in a box. We've got to grow, he urged. We've got to. Our skin is no more than that. It's just skin. Rant over. This is something I have echoed many and many times on this particular channel, and I'm glad to see somebody from Hollywood, a black person for that matter, actually saying things like this. Elba further rejected Hollywood's penchant for identity politics by noting that rather than having his career heralded as inspiration for just black individuals, he wanted it to stand as a testament to the potential for people who grew up in rough circumstances similar to himself. As a kid, I watched movies performed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, performed by Amitabh Bachchan in India, Jackie Chan in China, and many other actors, and I was inspired by them. You want to know why? I could relate to them as well as people like Denzel Washington, Samuel L. Jackson, because they all have one thing in common. They started from humble beginning. I started from humble beginning, and that's why I wanted to be like them, and I believe that if they could make it, so could I. It didn't matter what their race was. What mattered to me was we had that fact in common, that we had the same similar humble beginning, and this is what he's trying to say. I accept that it is part of my journey to be aware that in many cases I might be the first to look like me, to do a certain thing, recognize the actor, and that's good to live as part of my legacy so that other people, black kids, but also white kids growing up in circumstances I grew up, are able to see there was a kid who came from Canning Town who ended up doing what I do. It can be done. This is what he's trying to say, and this is such a powerful message, hence why I am actually going through all of this story, because Idris was really destroying the narrative that Hollywood wants to push, that only black people can inspire black people, only white people can inspire white people, so black people don't pay attention. It's a message of divide that Hollywood has consistently pushed using identity politics as a tool, and many of these actors. Wrapping up his thought on the topic, Elba then recalled, I didn't become an actor because I didn't see black people doing it and I wanted to change that. I did it because I thought that's a great profession and I could do a good job at it. Period. Point blank, period. As you get up the ladder, you get asked, what is it like to be the first black to do this or that? The actor explained, well, it's the same as it would be if you were white. It's the same first time for me. I don't want to be the first black.
Look at me. I'm Black Superman.
I am the first Idris. Boom! He smacked it. This was a touchdown from Idris, because let me tell you something. When you achieve something, you can only feel certain feelings. You either feel joy, happiness, gladness, and that is what black people feel. That is what white people feel. It's no different. It's what Asians, Hispanics, South Asians, and everybody feels when you achieve something. You're either full of joy or you are full of maybe sadness because somebody who you wanted there with you wasn't there. You feel the same damn thing as everybody else. Ecstatic, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, you guys, what he said was so on point. However, you have woke revolutionaries who came after him for these things, and one of them happened to be John Boyega, as I said before, and this is what he had to say to this. He said, I think we should fixate on who's typecasting and putting actors in boxes because of this, not on making weird adjustments for them. We continuously focus on what we have to do so they don't do this or that. Very worrying. We black, and that's that. Now, I disagree with this vehemently, because you're focusing on people who are typecasting rather than focusing on making yourself become what you want to become, means that these people are living rent-free in your head and they will control you. This is the box that they've put you in. The fact that you say we black, and that is the box that you have been put in by the same said powers that be that you think you're speaking truth to. And that's where you're mistaken, Mr. John Boyega. Idris also responded back to what he said and said, there isn't a soul on earth that can question whether I consider myself a black man or not. Because of what John Boyega said, that it seems like Idris is kind of denying him being a black person. That's not what he's saying at all. This is actually what he's saying. Being an actor is a profession, like being an architect. They are not defined by race. However, if you define your work by race, that's your prerogative. I lie. A lie in pidgin English means, am I lying? Or you can say, I dey lie. He's West African. John Boyega is West African. That's why I know this response was directly to John Boyega. That's my opinion anyway. I believe that this response is to him, and that's why he used that slang or that phrase at the end, ally. All right, so there you have it, you guys. You have two people of African descent who are coming from two different directions. While one of them thinks he's speaking truth to power, what he's actually doing by saying we black and that's that is actually putting himself in that box that those same said powers that be have created for him. However, when it comes to Idris wants to destroy that entire box so that everybody can be an equal and level playing field. And how does it start? It doesn't start with us hoping that other people change their own opinion or perception of us. It starts with us changing our own opinion and perception of ourselves by stop seeing ourselves as victims, by stop seeing ourselves as oppressed, and change the entire narrative. Respect isn't given, respect is earned. And this is what Idris is trying to do. However, when it comes to people like John Boyega, who considers themselves a black actor, they put themselves in poor position where they can take characters that they've played in that had potentials to become a Jedi, like in The Force Awakening, and they turn them into a laughing stock in The Last Jedi, simply to please a certain audience that comes from a certain part of the world where they actually shrunk him on a poster to please those same said audience. Now, when it comes to Hollywood doesn't really care about black actors. Hollywood doesn't care about any actors for that matter. All that Hollywood truly cares about is that they further their agenda. They want those people that they can use to push their identity politics, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, or wherever you are from. They want people who can defend their poor and lazy writing for their bad movies and their bad series. They want people who they can use to attack the fans on a consistent basis and anybody who speaks up against their narrative and agenda. And finally, they want people who they can use to further their political cause. And it is unfortunate that a person like John Boyega, who has drank the Kool-Aid of wokeness, is way too blind at this point to see that he is one of those people that are being used to further these agendas. And even though he thinks he's speaking truth to power, he's actually uplifting the set rules that those powers that be has put in place for people that look like him. And that, my friend, is just a shame.